What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Always happy to see you guys here. And welcome back to my Final Destination film review series, this time with Final Destination 3. With the release of the upcoming 6th installment in Final Destination Bloodlines, I thought I'd take this opportunity to go over all 5 of them, including the new one, followed by a ranking, so watch out for that. And if you've not caught them yet, I put the links to the first 2 films of my reviews down in the description below, so check those out when you can. And this will not be a film review series that will be done in time, because I still have this one and the next one and the one after that, plus the Mission Impossible film review series I'm doing at the same time, so my plate's pretty full, so they're not going to get done in time. Thank you very much for your patience. So released in 2006, Final Destination 3 follows a group of high school students who are kicked off this roller coaster after one of them has a vision to which they are hunted down by death one by one and die in bizarre ways unless they figure out a way to beat it. So we are now at the 3rd chapter of this franchise. For those of you who've watched this review series, knows how much I praise the 2nd film, how much that one's my favorite one, how everything ties in together with that 1st film, and how everything with the storyline and the writing was just so clever and just so awesome to me. I love that 2nd film for that. So when it came to the 3rd film, after watching it, yeah, it was decent. Not the best, especially after that 2nd film, but it was decent enough. It was still pretty entertaining, but just how entertaining was it? Starting off the positives for Final Destination 3, you know, every single one of these has that one disaster, that one thing that kicks each of these films off. You know, the first one we had a plane crash, the second one we had a car pileup on a highway. This one involves a roller coaster. It was very intriguing, though not as exciting as the car pileup from 2. But it also helps that ever since childhood, I've never, ever liked roller coasters. I've always had a deep fear of them. I remember times where my mom would always drag me onto one and try to get over my fear. I would go, but I would hate it. So by the time this film came out, by the time Final Destination 3 came out, that always seemed to help this film's case. Even though this one was a little bit of a step down from 2, that one always seemed to help in my case. Just that deep-seated fear of going around loops, even though you were always tightly fastened, and it was always safe for you to get on one. 9 times out of 10, I would never feel that way. I would always be like, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm not going. Nope, you can't make me. No. But yeah, like I said, ever since childhood, that would always be my biggest fear. Like I said, I would eventually get on one, but I would hate the living crap out of it. But for this entry, I thought it did a really good job at kickstarting the type of tone and the type of film, the type of entry that this was going to be. And what's interesting about this entry is this is the first one to where they actually kickstart it off with a disaster and they end it with a train wreck, with a train crash, literally, to where they have 2 disastrous events in one film, and I thought that was pretty interesting. It's like they end it on the same note that they begin it with, and I thought that was an interesting choice. It was something fresh, it was something new, and it was just a good way to just keep it fresh, to, you know, just kill 2 birds with one stone, literally. And like I said, I thought that was an interesting choice creatively, especially by the time you get to a 3rd in the series. You have to liven it up, you have to kind of keep it fresh and more enthralling. I thought that was handled very well for this entry. Just having 2 disasters, not just the one in the beginning, but you also have the one at the end to actually end it the same as you kickstart it, and I thought that was pretty interesting. Which is also the one thing that separates this one from those first 2 films. I thought our main lead in Mary Elizabeth Winstead was pretty good. She's the one that has the premonition this time around. She's our main lead of this film. And it's the first thing I've seen this actress in. You know, this was around a time when her career was really starting off. She had such a promising career ever since this film. She may have acted a little bit before this, but this was the first thing I've seen her in. But she was great. I thought she handled things very nicely, very well. Especially in the first act after everything went down and just the emotional depth and length that she went to with some of the trauma that she experienced. I thought she played that off pretty well. I was right there with her the entire time. She really carried the film. The carnage was revved up just a little bit in this. It just goes to show you how vindictive and vicious this entity is. You get to see people crushed and grinded up, and I thought it was a little bit of a step up from those first two films. Again, as much as I loved that second film, I think the carnage was revved up just a little bit here, to where it's just a little bit more hardcore. People being flattened by signs, heads being crushed. There's this one scene where this girl took a nail gun to the back of the head right through her face, and I thought that was pretty creative. It was a pretty creative kill. Just like I've said, there are rules when you do sequels like this in a franchise like this. You just have to rev it up. You have to be more creative, which makes it harder, why it fails sometimes. And the way that they try to survive, the way they try to outsmart death in this entry was actually quite smart. You have this whole scene where Winstead is taking pictures at that fair at the beginning of the film with a digital camera of just random pictures of just everything that's going on. And when things goes down, and then later on they refer back to those pictures as clues. It's just another way of what I've been saying. It's just more evidence of what I've been saying on how smart you have to be in order to beat this thing. You have to really outsmart it. You have to really be 2 steps ahead of it. And it's just a mind game. That's basically it. You have to be 2 steps ahead of it, and you have to pay attention to clues and the things around, just the minor, small, and minute things that happens. And you just have to be 1 or 2 steps ahead of it in order for you to beat this thing. And I thought they did it pretty cleverly for this entry. And I thought it was more visually too, and made the characters really stand out a lot on how well they handled the situation, and how they were smart enough to refer to these pictures on who's next, and trying to figure out who's next. But it was still very tricky because it's like putting a Rubik's Cube together. It's all about that mind game. It's all about how smart you can be and how witty you are. I did appreciate that they threw a little bit more into that section of this film for this entry, for this series. I appreciated the level that they went to and the extension that they went to. And you just have to use all your wits in order to beat this thing. Otherwise, you're toast. It's done. It's over. But I thought they handled that pretty well here. I thought it was more direct, more visually, and I really did appreciate that. And I have to mention the scoring by Shirley Walker, which I hadn't really mentioned the scoring in the first 2 film reviews, but I've always thought that it fit the series pretty well, to where you have this very unique scoring and theme, and it really does sound like death. Even though there's not a literal mascot for this film to where you could actually see, they made it completely invisible. I thought the scoring was actually done quite well, and it had a personality of its own, since you can't really see this entity, and it's not visible, it's not physical, it's more supernatural. I thought the scoring pretty much spoke for it enough. It's just one of those things that when you do a score for a certain icon, it fits. And I thought the score that Shirley Walker did for Final Destination was actually top notch. And like I said, it kind of gave it a personality of its own, to where, like, even though you don't see the entity itself, the scoring speaks for itself. And I thought that was done pretty cleverly. It just gives you that feeling that something is in the room with you, is some presence that you don't need to see, but the music speaks louder than visually, especially in this case. But the theme pretty much spoke for it and gave it its own voice. And I always enjoyed that. Moving on to my negatives, and I have several here, unfortunately. This one was a little bit of a disappointment. It was definitely a big step down from 2. For those of you who did not watch my Final Destination 2 review, I gave that an own this movie, and it's the best in the series, in my opinion. At least until Bloodlines come out. We'll see how that turns out. But 2 is the best in the series. And by the time it came to 3, it was a little bit of a letdown. It was a little bit of a disappointment. There really wasn't much here in terms of story. As much as I enjoyed the Carnage Candy and how much they revved up all of that in this film, I felt like they favored that over story and narrative overall. Because of that, it just felt a little bland and a little dull. Because 2 had such a great narrative and a stable storyline and such chaotic and bonkers way of saying what it had to say, this one just felt blah. Just felt bleh. I mean, I hate to say that because I remember when this first came out over a decade ago, I was so excited. I was wanting to feel the same way I did with Final Destination 2, and unfortunately, even back then, ever since I rolled out of the theater after seeing this, I was like, no. Because of that, it feels a lot more basic and a lot more grounded here than what 2 did. It kind of felt like a little bit like the first one, to where they go back to a very specific tone of how that first one was. And for a third chapter, especially after the way they did 2 and just the outrageously bonkers way they did that one, you get to the next chapter, and I'm like, this is the best you got? That doesn't top it, y'all. That doesn't top it at all. You have such a minimal story here with unlikable characters, except for Winstead. She was actually pretty cool, like I've mentioned before. And it's just a very grounded take, very grounded direction, which was a major disappointment. I can't think of any other word than disappointment. It's just that. It was a major disappointment, and I really just wanted more. I really wanted to feel that, oh my God, this is the best Final Destination movie ever! Unfortunately, I never felt that with this one. I never felt that with 3. And that's very sad. Very sad. It felt very backtrackish. Like, they did what they did in 2, which was awesome. And then they backtracked for 3, which is exactly how it felt like. There's nothing really exciting or new here. There's nothing really creative or anything really good that they did with the characters. And it's basically just a rehash, like a remake. Even though it's a sequel, it does kind of confirm it's a sequel with just a little bit of dialogue and just one scene. But it's basically a remake to where instead of a plane, they throw in a roller coaster instead. That's basically what this is. I'm not saying this sucked completely, but going from a very wacky and unique, interesting storytelling and narrative to this, no. Just no. It was disappointing at best, and like I said, it just felt like a backtrack. It just felt like they did a complete 360 from the first film, the second, back to that first film. Despite that, I still have a good time with this. It's not one I pop in often, clearly, but it still had its moments. It did feel like it backtracked somewhat, though, and because of that, it's fine to just stream it. Well, that's it for this one, guys. What's your thoughts and take on Final Destination 3? Was this your favorite in the series? Do you like that more grounded feel, that more of a grounded take? Or are you somebody who did not appreciate what they did with 3? Are you somebody that didn't enjoy this one, especially after the bonkers way 2 did? Were you more of a fan of that one? Or are you not a fan of this series at all? Leave me a comment down below and give me your thoughts. Thank you so much, guys, for clicking here and watching this. Once again, I really do appreciate it. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. Make sure to click that bell icon so you don't miss a thing if you like what you see. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.